Before a name was ever spoken, there was a brightness without an edge, a silence so complete it rang through itself like a bell that needed no striker. A white gold sun hovered over a dark sea that was not the absence of things but the generous womb of everything, not yet. You are there even now, not traveling toward it but relaxing into the fact that you never stepped outside. When you stop trying to hold your breath, the air remembers you. When you stop trying to hold the light remembers itself through you. The monad is not a being among beings, but the living fullness that lets beings borrow breath for a while. It refuses comparison, because comparison implies distance, and it has none. Description breaks against it like a wave against the shore. Testimony dissolves into radiance. So we do the only honest thing. We agree to be quiet enough that it speaks first. Close your eyes for the span of one soft inhale and meet the white sun behind your eyelids, not as a picture but as a pressure, a hush, a widening that doesn't push. If a thought approaches, let it kneel and pass. If an emotion knocks, let the door become air. You are not trying to achieve stillness so much as removing the clutter that was pretending to be you. Errors begin when we imagine the source is elsewhere, a treasure we must hunt, bargain for or deserve. Salvation begins when we discover elsewhere never existed, and that the map was always the mirror. The sea is not a barrier, it is a lens. It shows you what you have always been, a presence willing to overflow simply by existing, a brightness that does not burn because it does not compete, a center that does not need edges to prove itself. The monad is generosity without effort. To know it is to discover that effort was the costume you wore to a party that never required dress code. The mind asks for definitions like a merchant counting coins. The soul asks for recognition like a child running home. Let the mind keep its ledger and the soul keep its door open. When the two finally meet, definition bows to recognition, and the room fills with a warmth that does not require a reason. Imagine the white sun extending one arm's length around your body with each exhale, then two, then to the edges of the room, then to the horizon. Notice how the center travels with you, how the sphere never leaves you even as it includes more and more. This is not imagination as fantasy, this is imagination as faculty of sight. You do not have to become worthy of the light, you have to become honest about the fact that you were born inside it. Keep nothing, refuse nothing. Let the silent sun be the first sentence your soul speaks again, and let your life become punctuation that says only yes. From that silent plenitude, without ever leaving it, awareness recognizes itself and a tenderness stirs. The first thought is not a conclusion, but a self-embrace so pure it generates worlds without losing its wholeness. Barbello is the luminous womb where fullness becomes expression, where love puts on voice and still remains silence. When you feel uncaused warmth rise in the chest, love is remembering its ancient assignment. Place both hands over your heart and breathe. Inhale for 4 counts, hold for 4, exhale for 6. Feel how the exhale spills beyond your skin, as if the body were a doorway and not a wall. The heart doesn't manufacture compassion, it reveals the river that was running beneath the floorboards of your life the entire time. Barbello does not invent the eons, she overflows them like a mountain pours itself as rivers. Each emanation carries a tone of the one, a chord refracted across facets that remain in union. There is no jealousy among the lights, because none of them lack the sun. Each knows itself as gift and becomes more itself by giving. We are not orphans standing at the cold edge of a universe that tolerates our questions. We are notes from the first chord, harmonics of a music that preceded stars and will outshine their ash. When you say I am, hear the unspoken remainder of that, and feel the way shame loses its passport at the border of such recognition. Shame cannot survive this room. It melts at the threshold, unable to imagine a love that asks for nothing in return. The old bargains, prove yourself, fix yourself, earn your place, fall apart like paper in rain. Barbello is not here to negotiate your value. She is here to reveal it until negotiation becomes absurd. Whisper within, barely moving your lips. First thought. Let the words drop through the chest like a stone into still water. Watch the rings widen beyond the ribs, beyond the room, beyond the horizon, until what you called outside turns around and calls your name from within. If there is grief, let it be honored as the echo of distance that never truly was. If there is relief, let it flood the fields that drought once claimed. If there is nothing but quiet, do not mistake it for emptiness. It is the softness that makes room for all futures. Leave this chamber different, not because you learned a concept, but because you were recognized. Walk out knowing that the first love never left, and that all you call practice is simply how recognition learns to stay. Imagine geometry that breathes, forms that inhale and exhale, measures that glow, proportions that sing a key into the marrow and lock into place with a click your ancestors would have called Amen. The Pleroma is not crowded, it is complete. Nothing competes because nothing lacks. Order here feels like generosity rather than control. You cannot map this realm with lines alone, you map it with reciprocity. Spheres answering spheres, pairs answering pairs, a dance of syzygies where every step balances another step so precisely that equilibrium feels like joy. This is architecture as relationship. Each beam holds the others up by being exactly itself. Visualize a sphere of light enclosing your body. On the first exhale, expand it to the edges of the room. On the second, to the horizon. On the third, to whatever you mean by all of it. Notice that the center does not flee to keep up. The center travels with you because the center is you recognizing you are held. If the world of deficiency is a maze, the fullness is a garden. In a maze, you second guess and hoard instructions. In a garden, you wander and everything nourishes. Holiness is correct ecology. Every presence in right relation to every other presence, so that scarcity has no language left to speak. Here, truth is not against love and beauty is not against wisdom. They are one fabric with different textures under the same light. Tug any thread and the whole tapestry greets you. No alarms, only welcome. This is why real understanding makes you kinder. Comprehension in the fullness always arrives with communion. The mind asks for diagrams because it is faithful to its craft. The soul asks for music because it remembers the first song. Let both be served. Understand enough to bow and feel enough to obey, and watch how bowing and obeying become synonyms for joy. Name quietly 3 qualities you long for: clarity, courage, mercy. On your next breath, imagine they are structural beams already installed, load-bearing timbers that were part of your blueprint from the beginning. Treat them not as distant goals, but as givens waiting to be turned on like lights in rooms you forgot you owned. Walk as someone whose architecture is sound. The storm recognizes a house that will not fall, and when it passes, that house will be a shelter to others who are still learning the shapes of home. 4 watchfires stand at the edges of your remembering. Armozel, Oriel, Daveithai, Eleleth. They do not rule, they reveal. They will not replace your will, they will restore it to its native brightness. Each turns a facet of your face toward the sun, until you recognize your features in the light you were looking for. Armozel lifts the head without pride, awakening the dignity you tried to earn by effort and could never quite hold. You don't stand straight to become worthy. You remember you are worthy, and standing straight follows as naturally as breath follows pause. In Armozel's presence, posture becomes prayer, and your spine remembers it is a candle. Oriel clarifies the gaze so that counterfeit radiance flickers, while true radiance deepens with every look. Discernment stops being suspicion and becomes simple sight. Under Oriel's lamp, you discover that brightness without generosity is only glare, and that gentleness that refuses truth is only fog. Daveithai warms the will, not the will that forces outcomes, but the will that consents to truth, whatever it asks. Power returns to gentleness, and in that returning, burns brighter than force ever could. You find yourself choosing the difficult good with less drama and more song. Eleleth threads memory through your labyrinth. He is the friend who takes your hand in a dream and says, "This way," and the dream begins to remember it is a sky. With Eleleth, destiny stops feeling like a sentence and starts feeling like a path that greets your feet as if they were old companions. Breathe out each name once: Armozel, Oriel, Daveithai, Eleleth. Notice which name lands heavy and kind in the body. Where it lands, linger. Where it warms, listen. Where it brightens, bow. The body is wise enough to know which lamp you need first. If you have prayed alone, know this: you were never alone. The four lights stood around you like the corners of a home, and your whispered questions rose like incense into a geometry that never once lost track of you. Angels are not absent, our attention is. Step onward flanked by guardians, not to escape the world, but to carry the fullness into the market and the kitchen and the inbox. Their light does not remove your humanness, it crowns it, and in that crowning even small errands begin to glow. Sophia's longing is holy because curiosity is a praise when it keeps its eyes on the sun, but longing can forget to look back. When curiosity unhooks from communion, it stumbles into imitation and calls the echo a voice. The tragedy is not desire. The tragedy is isolation dressed as innovation. Error does not create, it counterfeits. It copies shine and removes source, offers praise and withholds presence, sells certainty where only wonder is safe. The matrix is orphaned brilliance selling itself cheap. A marketplace of mirrors peddling reflections with no lamp behind them. It will grant you speed and charge you depth. Close your eyes for 2 seconds and reopen them. Ask, what here feels extracted versus generous? Do not accuse, observe. True light gives you back to yourself and leaves the room brighter for having included you. False light takes attention hostage and leaves you hungry for the next fix. Sophia falls when curiosity unhooks from communion, and we fall when we seek power without prayer, knowledge without kneeling, influence without intimacy. The bruise is real, but it is not the final color. There is always a hand on the horizon, disguised as an ordinary dawn. Every false light demands agreement and performance. Every true light invites alignment and presence. The false insists you hurry. The true asks you to deepen. The false keeps score. The true keeps company. One will burn you out. The other will set you on fire without consuming you. Do not hate the counterfeits. Outgrow them. Pour them back into the river of origin and let the current translate them into usefulness. Discernment is a blessing, not a blade, and gratitude for the lesson is how you stop buying the same lecture from the same traveling salesman. Remember one moment you chased shine and found ash. Place a hand on the belly and say, I choose the generous light. Let the breath lengthen on its own, and notice how the body relaxes when it hears a promise it trusts. Your nervous system has theology. Let it teach you. Sophia's story is not catastrophe, but tension aching towards music. Redemption already waits in the wings because love anticipated our experiments and planted mercy in the soil. What we call fall heaven calls distance to be sung across. Help often arrives as a thread you could swear wasn't there a moment ago. It pulls through dreams and coincidences, through books that fall open, and strangers who say a single sentence then vanish back into their errands. The thread doesn't argue, it tugs, and the heart, when it is ready, turns. Eleleth is often the hand on this thread, not to impose a path, but to reveal the one you chose before you forgot you chose it. Guidance is not control, it is companionship with clarity. You do not lose your freedom, you lose only the confusion that pretended to be freedom while keeping you small. Scan your life for the nudge that rerouted you, the accident you missed, the job you didn't get that became the door you needed, the friendship that ended so your real work could begin, the quiet afternoon that felt like a visitation without spectacle. Rescue rarely sounds like a trumpet. It sounds like a bell you suddenly notice was always ringing. Gratitude is not etiquette here, it is propulsion. When you breathe thank you up the spine and down the front of the body, something aligns that no effort could engineer. You become steerable by love, and love wastes nothing, not even detours, not even delays. We are stitched to the fullness, even while swearing we're separate. The thread runs through bone and story, through wound and wonder, through past lives you half remember in dreams and futures that wave from just beyond the hill. This is why despair struggles to keep its arguments coherent in the presence of honest attention. Beware the counterfeit thread that yanks with fear or flatters with destiny you haven't practiced for. The real thread feels like being seen by a friend who knows your strength and refuses to collapse into your excuses. It is firm, but never harsh, intimate, but never invasive. Inhale mentally from tailbone to crown, exhale down the front to the heart and whisper, "Lead me." Then pay attention to the next ordinary thing that glows. A sentence, a face, a task you've postponed that suddenly feels like devotion. The sacred does not avoid the mundane, it saturates it. Follow lightly. The thread will not drag you through doors. It will invite you to walk like someone who remembers the key has been in their pocket the entire time. The waters do not wash you to make you acceptable. They wash you because you are acceptable. Purification is polish, not punishment. It is the moment the window realizes it was never the view and becomes transparent with joy. The 5 seals are not commodities you purchase. They are living gateways that recognize their own. Imagine standing beneath a cascade that is also a song, a hymn in which every drop knows your name from before names. The waters are not interested in your performance. They are interested in your permission. When you stop clenching around your story, the current does the only thing it knows, carry you home while making you luminous. We will not enact a ceremony. We will open a window. Sometimes a window is enough. Air has been waiting like a faithful messenger outside your clenched house, poised to cross the threshold the second you remember how to unlatch. The seals are those latches, learning the shape of your fingers again. Tone gently on one slow breath. A, then E, then I. Let the vowels be keys that do not pry but invite. Feel where each lands, pelvis, heart, brow, places awakening to their original assignment. This is not performance, this is permission, sound cooperating with design. If tears come, let them be water returning to its river. If laughter arrives, let it shake dust from beams, as if an old house suddenly remembered it could dance. If stillness descends, honor it like a king and do not rush to entertain your guests again. Cup one hand over the heart and the other over the navel and breathe with parted lips so the exhale leaves like mist. Say inwardly, seal me in truth, seal me in love. Notice the way the body answers without words, as if a seal pressed wax with an emblem you recognize by feel. The waters will not erase your history. They will bathe it until it shines. What was once evidence against you becomes testimony for you, not by denial, but by transfiguration. The wound learns to glow because it remembers it is a window. Leave the waters dripping. Do not dry off too quickly with old certainties. Let the dampness bless your errands like chrism that refuses to behave like mere moisture. The body of light is not metaphor invented by poets hungry for mystery. It is an instrument the ancients tuned and we forgot how to play. Tonight we pluck a single string and listen for the resonance that proves the instrument still works. You are not building a ladder so much as discovering rungs that were always there. Above the crown, about a hand's breadth, there is a star that belongs to you. It is not far. It is near in a different direction. When attention rests there with tenderness instead of strain, a scent remembers its road, and the nervous system learns that uplift can be gentle. Bring awareness to that star for 10 seconds. If a subtle lift appears, follow it like a feather attends the wind, rather than a rocket defies gravity. If nothing appears, honor the nothing. Faithfulness to attention is itself a rung, and the star is patient with sincere beginners. The ladder is not for escape, it is for perspective. From higher rungs, the maze sketches itself as a garden, and fear of wrong turns loosens into a smile you didn't know you were capable of. Problems do not vanish so much as they resize until wisdom can hold them without breaking. Breath is the first rung, sound the second, stillness the third, kindness the fourth, truth the fifth. The rungs continue beyond counting, but the gesture remains the same. Surrender upward into intimacy. You do not climb by perfecting yourself. You climb by consenting to be carried by a gravity made of grace. Inhale as if the crown opens. Exhale as if the soles of the feet root. Become a pillar between heaven and earth. A bridge that remembers it is made of sky. Notice how mundane posture becomes sacrament when intention tunes the body to its secret music. When you walk after this, walk taller on the inside. Angels notice posture, not as vanity, but as vocabulary. It tells them which language of assistance you currently understand, and help will arrive speaking your dialect. Return gently. The star does not go out when you stop looking. It waits in plain sight, the way love sits in a room and makes the room feel like home. Skepticism is healthy until it becomes a cage where wonder forgets its wings. The Pleroma offers evidence that makes cages optional: quieter reactivity, sudden generosity, dreams that teach, synchronicities that cluster like bees around a bell. This is not superstition. This is correspondence between inner weather and outer sky. Do not perform spirituality. Detect it. The signs are subtle and stubborn. The argument you don't feed, the stranger you bless in your mind, the truth you tell, even when applause is cheaper, the spontaneous apology that tastes like freedom instead of defeat. Holiness is remarkably practical when it is real. Name aloud one proof, however small, because naming anchors current. Heaven loves witnesses. Testimony is how the wave remembers it belongs to the sea. Write it down so tomorrow's forgetfulness has something to trip over and wake up. Record the dream that arrived at 3 in the morning and the insight that arrived in the checkout line. The same hand signs both. The grocery line can be a temple when your gaze is clean. Sacredness is not picky. It will use whatever is awake and available. If you feel nothing yet, refuse panic. Seeds do not argue with soil to prove they are alive. They split at their appointed hour and call that surrender a birth. Keep watering with attention, keep warming with practice, and let time do its sacrament. Remember that the matrix shouts and the fullness often whispers. On shouting days, lower your head, not your hope. Whisper back with breath and a single honest act. and notice how the volume inside you drops until your ears can hear subtlety again. Place 2 fingers on the pulse at your wrist and count 10 beats while whispering, "Found." The body of light does not forget a name once given. It files it under "Answered" and builds routes you will notice when you are ready to travel them. Collect your proofs not as trophies, but as breadcrumbs. They will guide you through fog on days you forget the shape of your own doorway, and they will remind you that evidence is not an argument to win, but a friendship to keep. We end without ending because you did not leave heaven. You left a conversation, and this is you rejoining it mid-sentence. The white thread trails out your door and down your street and through the faces you will meet, turning errands into sacraments and interruptions into invitations. You are not sent to argue the fullness into the world. You are sent to leak it. Go back to your ordinary life like a priest returns to a village, not above, but among. Wash dishes with liturgy, answer emails with mercy, step into meetings with posture that remembers the ladder, and buy bread like it's Eucharist. When you fail, fail honestly and begin again with humor. Heaven is not fragile. When the false lights flash, smile gently and keep walking. When Sophia's longing stirs, let her look back at the sun and borrow its patience. When the thread tugs, let yourself be led without the old theater of reluctance. The world is too hungry for you to fake humility with delay. Say the names of the luminaries when you forget your own. Armozel for dignity, Oriel for sight, Daveithai for consenting power, Eleleth for memory's hand. Step into the waters when dust begins to win, and stand on the ladder each morning long enough for perspective to iron your heart. These are not chores. They are how love dresses itself for work. Send one beam of goodwill to someone specific, friend or foe, and another to a stranger your tomorrow will introduce. Spend it like you have more where that came from because you do. The account is the monad, and it does not calculate in scarcity. Generosity is not strategy, it is physics where fullness is the gravity. If this transmission moved something in you, if you felt warmth, calm, tears, tingles, a subtle lift or a sudden will to be gently brave, tell us in the comments so others can recognize their own signs. Share this with one person who's ready to remember, so the thread has more hands to hold. Subscribe if these living initiations nourish you and you want more of them woven into your days. And if you're ready to go deeper, explore my books on the eons and the Pleroma. The link is in the description. They are companions to this path, expanding the teachings, stories, and practices so you can root this remembrance in your own life and become a lighthouse for others who are waking. Now rise slowly, like a bell after it's struck, and carry the sound with you. The world is waiting to hear what the fullness sounds like in your voice.